Welcome to Reading the Green, our golf and fantasy sports show. My name is Mike, with Kyle rocking the black and gold. No Jordan on Tuesday, February 6th. This is episode 96, the Waste Management preview, and of course, the Pebble Beach recap. Kyle, what are we watching some Iowa sports tonight, or what's going on?
No, I thought I would just represent the Hawkeyes. Jordan's not here to contradict everything I say about Iowa incorrectly 99% of the time. So, hey, rocking Iowa.
You've been out on the Caitlin Clark Nightwatch here, out policing against the trolls on social media. So I figure maybe it's just you're on guard tonight. You got to represent.
Yeah, people are ridiculous out there. Just stop hating. It's fine to dislike something, but just coming with, incorrect facts. Come on, like saying she's breaking records because she's on her 5th year. She's not. She's on her 4th year. But there's just a lot of crap like that. I'm sick of it, Mike. It's unwarranted.
I think in this era we call those alternative facts.
Correct. Yeah. So
well,
anything with the word fact in it is no longer a fact. I don't. But, yeah.
It's a post-truth era. Anyways, not why we're here. That's
yeah, we kind of went off on a tangent there. We didn't even mean to start with that, people. So sorry.
What I do want to talk about, though, you talk about things that people like to hate on. Professional golf was a bit of a snaggle this weekend. I mean, it starts with the AT&T Pro-Am at Pebble Beach. We get the first look of a kind of newly designed golf tournament, right? Same location, smaller field, no cut, fewer amateurs. They drop Monterey Peninsula off the course rotation, which frankly, we'll get to some of this maybe in the Pebble takes, but I think really improved the viewing experience because I felt like I got more Pebble until I got less Pebble because we didn't get to play the 3rd round or the 4th round. And the implication that decision had on what was going on in Mayakoba, you couldn't help but just watch this train wreck unfold. And I still have a broken phone, so I have been able to scroll Twitter as endlessly as I normally would on the weekend looking for golf updates. So I don't really know what the rest of the world is saying about this, but Kyle, I want to admit, I watched 2 holes of the LIV Golf playoff while making dinner on Sunday.
I did not watch any of it. I don't think that would surprise anyone. So I think, you missed some of the Twitter takes, and I think there was some steam, I would say, in our little Twitterverse that is the golf DFS community and golf writers and whatnot that we follow, that almost made it feel like a lot of people were watching LIV more than had been in the past. But did you see the ratings today?
I did not.
So let's just to set the stage. On Sunday afternoon, your viewing choices were, there's some decent college basketball games. I believe like Purdue played Wisconsin. There was like a flag football competition for the Pro Bowl.
The Pro Bowl games, I think, is what they're called now.
Correct.
Which I watched some highlights. It's pretty cool.
I believe I watched the dodgeball on like Wednesday. Come on, that's awesome. In the contest where the like fullbacks are trying to catch footballs where they already have 4 or 5 in their hands. I mean, that's TV gold when there's nothing else to watch at 10 p.m. Anyway, NHL had their, I don't even know if that was on Saturday or Sunday, but
it was Friday, Saturday, yeah.
So there's no big football, whatnot. And then no PGA because of the rain out. So LIV, you would think, would have the chance of a lifetime, right? They got their big new signing, Jon Rahm, out there. Guess what outdrew LIV on Sunday, Mike? What sporting event outdrew LIV?
Oh man, I think I know the answer to this, but I'm gonna say the Russian ping pong finals.
Ooh, you're very close. It was some pickleball match.
Pickleball's a big deal.
Yeah,
Scotty Scheffler might have been playing in it.
Yeah. So no laying up. Check out their Twitter timeline; they're all over it. Yeah, they had a golden opportunity, and people still, just like me, don't find the product that intriguing. Whether it is the team aspect. You had Ron coming off at the end and getting asked about team. I believe you tweeted about that, Mike, and he looked like he saw an alien. He had no clue what they're talking about. You have, I mean, he clearly cares to win, but you still have the money element. Like, oh yeah, he could have made
He
that.
cares
putt
to
and
win, yet he's still bogeyed the last 2 holes. It happens, I get it, but like,
Correct.
he's the big signing. And he comes and he chokes away his first tournament when he's in contention to
he could
get
have
it
made
done.
those birdies and made it 605 million instead of 600 million. Who cares? Like, it's just
yeah.
Let's fast forward 2 years. Hopefully get rid of 90% of those guys. The 6 we care about can figure out a way back, and then hey, we're back.
I would like to. So I had hot debates in multiple circles, and I just to talk about the LIV Golf experience for 2 seconds. Like I said, I watched them come down 18, and I watched 2 playoff holes, but I got into it with loyal listeners, 90-degree rule, and P Koziak 3. Just thinking about like if the team event, because clearly the team event is part of the sales pitch. They have to wear stupid uniforms, have stupid team names, and take these stupid photo shoots that are all photoshopped. So it clearly matters, yet not a single player has a clue what's going on. And it makes me think of high school golf, which was a team sport, but none of us ever had any idea what was happening in the event related to the team, nor would our coaches tell us because they didn't want to like psych us out if someone was having a good round or, put pressure on us if we had to anchor the team. And so you would think that the team stuff really mattered. Then like Rahm coming down the stretch, there'd be people in his ear telling him this is exactly what's going on with the team. And they ran away with it, a 5-stroke win or whatever it was. But like, you'd think that he would know walking off 18 because the team is so important. It just is such a headache having to care about that. And I rather would have like just wanted to care whether Sergio or Joaquin or Rahm won. But I mean, that's just part of the whiff here. And that makes it so hard to even like enjoy that one sliver of LIV is all I'm going to care about this year. And even then it was really a challenge.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. It's contrived, it's forced. But don't get me wrong, I'm not hating on it because of it's an alternative tour or the guy's ability to go make money, whatever. I don't care about any of that. At the end of the day, I want to watch a golf product I care about, and I would prefer to have everyone that I would like to watch play golf play on the same place. And it took that away from us, so I am not going to support it.
Well, the CW got my viewership for 5 minutes, and it was just more out of it happened to be suggested by YouTube TV when I was making dinner. So
I was actually frustrated by that because my YouTube TV did it as well, and it had it as like the third option. And I'm like, no, get that crap out of here. More people live in Minneapolis than we're watching the Sunday LIV.
But so now you are the PGA Tour organizers, and you are sitting there on Sunday and then Monday, and you're making this call that your first kind of big signature event of the year. We had the Century, but you have the signature event, first big signature event of the season, and you're going to shorten it to 54 holes with no cut and award the winner 700 OWGR points. Like it was a funny little juxtaposition in that moment. And I know some people like had some Twitter takes, I'm sure, but like it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Like it doesn't like make the PGA Tour hypocritical, but it was funny that LIV played more holes to crown a winner in that moment than PGA Tour.
That's fair.
It was fun. It was fun.
In the tour, to your point, like what can they do? It was that you can't play on that Sunday. We joked around that one video that came out like, oh, that doesn't look that bad. And then you see the wave hit and go all the way across 18 fairway. And it's like, oh, all right.
That would have gobbled up Griot's topped 5-wood that ricocheted off like the seawall.
Yeah.
You're right. That was probably not going to happen.
Yeah. And then Monday, they still have a shelter in place. And especially going into the waste management, Super Bowl week, logistics, there's just a lot that goes behind it that people don't realize that it's not as easy to say, hey, wait till Monday afternoon to try to squeeze it in, or even Tuesday.
Yeah.
Tuesday was never an option. I think their mistake, and I'm curious if there ever how much flexibility there is behind it, is could they have squeezed 36 in on Saturday, or
you said
could
it.
they?
You said it.
Yeah, well, we said it on like Tuesday and Wednesday. They should have looked at it, or like, it would have been really funny if they did this though. If they just come out before the round Friday, say, "Hey, it looks like we're going to be in trouble. We're going to implement a cut now. Everyone can still get paid, but it's only going to be top 40 in ties that are going to play 36 holes on Saturday." How awesome would that have been?
That would have been, it would have been cool. I think there's a lot of, hopefully there's some learning here, but I do think given the limited field size and no amateurs, you probably could have got it done on Saturday. Daylight might have been a little bit of an issue, but they could have tried.
I mean, they already went threes and off both sets of tees. Like, I think they could have teed off an hour and a half earlier. Yeah, it would have been close, but. And then I think that's probably the calculus there, and I'm sure there's TV constraints. Maybe CBS doesn't want to do that. I don't know. I don't even know what they're playing Saturday night, but give some primetime golf for the East Coast, Midwest. I would think that would still be favorable, but they're also trying to fill that TV window on Sunday where you don't have NFL. But there was no chance it was going to play. That forecast didn't change over the last week.
Yeah, probably got worse actually. But let's talk about Pebble a little bit. I want to hear about your beer first. You had something in a glass that looked pretty solid.
Yes. Hey, I'm excited to be fully back, having a beer during the pod. It's been 6 weeks, right? Or well, even longer than that since we did the pod. So anyway, Fair State Cooperative, Mr. Falcon.
Yeah. I was there. I texted you.
Funny story though. Yeah. So you texted about this. Well, that was Friday, right?
We went out Friday night. Yep. Went to High, followed by Fair State, just for a full night out. It's a nice little back to back.
I'm very jealous. High is top 5 for me. So yeah,
it's very good.
So I went to South Lindale, my favorite liquor store, on Saturday, and they had a 4-pack of this sitting on the shelf. So I did grab it and then got it chilled and had it as my second IPA on Saturday night. And I don't know which hop it is specifically, or if it was just what hop I had before, but I was like, ooh, this does not taste good. And I was very surprised because I traditionally really like
Mr. Falcon is pretty high end stuff.
But as my first beer tonight, it's delicious. So we'll see. I'm following it up with a Hooey. I mean, that's represented often on the pod.
Good stuff. Well, I did buy 3 Mr. Falcon crawlers because I haven't been to liquor stores, so that should last a little while. Hopefully till episode 100, maybe. I'm drinking Hot Butcher. This is Chicago, and this is the Kielbasa King Mosaic Nelson Sauvin double IPA, but only 7.5%. Really solid. Hot Butcher does a lot of good stuff.
Nelson, how's the Nelson in there? You know, that's one of my
I would say it's heavy Mosaic. I know that Nelson. Okay. I don't mind a Nelson beer if I am expecting a bit of like a winey, a little winey taste to it. But I think the Mosaic is making it, kind of citrusy and pillowy enough.
Sure. Like it.
All right, so back to Pebble Beach. We're going to talk about the results from the 54-hole no-cut event. Shelter in place. I like hearing that term. I feel like, I don't know if that existed before COVID, but COVID certainly cemented shelter in place as a key glossary term for this generation. And so now we're talking about shelter in place because of the weather. I'm like, I know exactly what to do. Sit on my couch.
We have shelter in place as the weather geek of this group. You see that weather terminology often.
All right. Well, it took out a new media in the last several years, but I figured those players. I mean, Ben On was out tweeting basically like he had no power for about 8 hours. And then someone had a funny bit. They said, Ben, are you hoping you guys get out and play today or tomorrow, whatever day? This was Sunday morning, and he said, I bet that the bottom 5 guys and the leader are very interested in not playing on Sunday. Yeah. But let me ask you this though. So there's been some stuff out there about Wyndham Clark. what he did on Saturday was just downright impressive. It was a putting display for the ages. And I wish I would have looked up the exact amount of feet that he had made, but he had made 150 feet of putts on the front nine. And to put that in perspective, a couple of stats that were thrown out. Average tour performance for 18 holes is, I think, 80 feet. I do a drill, and I think it's a really good drill that anyone that's just trying to get more out of their putting practice, and I don't remember where, I'm sure I saw this from one of the short game instructors, but you set up basically an 18-hole putting course for yourself on the putting green, varying lengths, anywhere from like 5, 10, 15, 20 feet. Take 18 putts, keep track of everything you make, and your goal is to try to get to 100 feet of putts, because making 100 feet of putts across 18 putts on the putting green should feel like a really good putting round. And that's what you want to try to train your brain to get to if you want to putt really well. It's like, I got to make 100 feet of putts. Wyndham makes 150 feet in the first 9 holes. And it was almost like, I think you said this, it was just like, he can't keep doing this. And then he kept doing it.
Yeah. And what was it?
Really cool.
The one off where he was just going full nuclear, on the par 3 where
the one bogey he made, yeah,
feathered it out,
12.
hit the club backwards, and then he freaking holes it, not from the French, but putted out of the rough and made
it. That was after he made this like curling birdie on 11, and he made a bomb on 9 and a bomb on 8. Like it was really, really cool to watch, and I'm sure for him, I've been in that, not exactly like that, but you're in this position where it's like, I don't even have to line this up. It's just going to go in. It's just one of those days. And you wish he could have put a 5 on the first number of his score, but he didn't. And it was 60, and it was still really cool.
He very easily could have too. Those last 3 holes, obviously it got in his head because he started leaving everything a touch short. Yeah. I'm curious from your perspective, Mike, some of the talk, no laying up and whatnot, is when you look at the round in totality relative to score to par with left clean in place and play, it's probably top 200 round ever, but not top 100, maybe the back end of the hundreds. How much do you think, how much do you discount things from a lift clean in place perspective? Because as my shitty amateur view, it's like, well, you're in the fairway anyway. It's you may be avoiding one divot or something along that lines, but then also, yes, the greens are very soft, and we saw people ripping it back on whatnot, but you have the same effect on the fairway, and you're losing so much yardage on bounces and carryouts. We saw drives just hit and stick. So I feel like people kind of use that as an excuse, which yes, it changes the conditions, but it's.
So I think Pebble plays short. And so I don't know that not getting roll in the fairway is really hurting him all that much. Being able to fire into those small greens without any risk of, now if he's controlling his spin, which we know guys like Thomas Dietrich have no clue what they're doing, he's able to just go slant, just like basically dunk things right around flag sticks and not have to worry about the ball racing past the cup. And so I do think, but you play the conditions you have. So like playing on a soft course, it doesn't matter. I don't think people understand. I mean, they do, but they would just want to criticize. Shooting 60 is a ridiculous number. The putts still had to go in the hole. It wasn't like he just got to kick every single one in. Shooting 60, he still had to hit every 60 of those shots. He still had to hit and hit well. So I don't think it takes anything away. I don't think lifting in place probably had, as long as it's not lifting in place through the green where you're doing it in the rough, then you get a significant advantage if you're doing it in the rough. In the fairway, these are pro fairways. These things are immaculate when these guys play. So the only thing, you saw it, I'm sure you saw it, I don't know the context, but he was taking a drop in some heavy rough. He pressed his foot down and dropped that ball right in a nice little flat footprint where he got a perfect lie.
Pictures, man. Go watch. There's some discussion of that in some of the pods this week as well of people that went back and watched the videos, like the pictures, and there's a blue stake in the background, so you can kind of see it relative. And the picture is clearly taken from a different angle than the shot is when he's hitting it, and he's not in the same spot as where the picture is where he's stomping. Like,
yeah. Do you last point on Wyndham? Do you like him any more or less, or this performance is what it is? And
I'm really curious how much there was to some of the LIV rumors for a little bit. You know, he obviously Travelers US Open last year, right? Travelers, was that the other one? Or he had the two.
He won the Wells Fargo.
Wells Fargo in the US Open last year, and then didn't finish the year super strong and came out pretty weak to start the year. But I was on him last week. I bet him, but mainly just because of the number, and it was silly for someone that has won a U.S. Open in the last calendar year to be at approaching 100-1,
70-1 in a signature event. With
most people got him at 100 or 90. It was just I had to wait that day, so it was down to 70 at that point. So I wondered if there was just a lot more going on there with him mentally, and that ship had sailed and he got to a good place, or maybe he just found something again. I'm curious, but I've always last year I played a lot of Wyndham Clark. Don't mind him, don't mind the game. Like to have another person that maybe popped a little later in their career like that. It's kind of a fun thing to cheer for. So I'm down.
Yes,
hey, I'll take the money you want me.
I know you were hoping for no more golf after Saturday. I think Wyndham's cockiness at the US Open was a bit of a turnoff. Like it wasn't like the fun cockiness you get out of like a Max Homa. However, I do like listening to him talk, and he was on the air quite a bit this weekend, and I do like the way that he thinks about the game, and he seems fairly level-headed. So maybe that's just what comes out on the golf course in a pressure situation. So I guess I like him a little more after this weekend, and it sounds like he's committed to playing on this tour at least for the next 5 minutes.
Yeah, and there's something about golfers that just from a viewing perspective that a guy can go nuclear and shoot a 59, 60, 61 even. It's just that brings a different quality than a guy that is a better off in the event where 369s is going to, or 469s is going to win.
Yeah. Good point. Last thing I'll say is Pebble is it's a really fun golf course to watch. I can't wait till the US Open is back there. It was the right move to get that golf course on TV for what would have been 3 out of the 4 rounds versus 2 out of the 4 rounds. And I much rather see the golfers and the vistas and the vantage points on TV there than at the other 2 places. So I'm looking forward to the format, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with that too. Last shout outs actually, go ahead, Mike, to speak through the winners of the week.
Here we go. RTG wrap up for the week. We got Listener League, 54 holes. Ness 0163 with the asterisk gets the win. Kyle, nice job finishing on the podium again. I have no idea. You got the magic touch right now. And then, of course, we got Pete Koziak 3 in third, who texted me on the side to say Sunday was going to be his day. And he's looking for a kickback on the side to make up for the difference. So that's ridiculous. RTG model, not really. We had a very middling week. It was very flat across the board. Because we don't have a cut, we're not measuring how our top plays do with the cut line, but with our power index, it was just kind of like every group of players that we measure finished kind of around the same distribution. So I think that contributed to sort of a meh DFS week. We did have our top expert of the week was John Hazelbauer for a second week in a row on his sleepers picks. Eric Cole, Adam Scott, Sahith Theegala, Cameron Davis. I like to see the sleepers articles pop back up here, and I hope that maybe is a little bit of an edge for us between him and Alex Hunter on DK Network. We might have a little bit of an angle to find some $7,500 plays and below and get some leverage against the contest. Gutsiest play goes to Zach Thompson from Fantasy Labs, sticking with Matthew Pavon. who wins last week at the Farmers, and he backs him again at Pebble. When Matthew was not so bad this past week. I think finishing in the top 7. Let's see, he was third. Yeah, he was third in our. There you go.
That I would call that one gutsy.
That was definitely gutsy, because I think I was on record last week saying I do not expect much from Matthew going forward, but there he is. I felt the landmines that we ended up with in the RTG model pretty high on Homa. I also took him in one and done. That was pretty popular. He finished at -2 for the 54 holes near the bottom, and then Victor Hovland flamed out a little bit as well. So not great on my part, since I was on both those guys.
I had a decent week, just kind of got lucky with Windy C, not just from a betting perspective, but shout out to, because it did feel like the whole betting community in DFS, our community, was on Clark from a betting perspective. But Spencer Aguilar, Pat James, and Jeff Feinberg were on him from a DFS perspective as well. So shout out to those guys. And I had a good sprinkle, so that helped keep me afloat, and including in the RTG league. So overall, just waiting for that big week, Mike. Waiting for that big week. Maybe this is it.
It could be. We'll be there in 1 minute. What do we make of one and done? Is this for me to do? Is this for me to recap?
Actually, when you mentioned one and done, I was like, oh, that's the one part of the show Jordan contributes to, and he's not here. I can do it. I'm trying to load it really quickly as we're talking here.
There were the top 3 finishers. The top 3 finishers had 6th place selections at Pebble Beach between Jason Day and Justin Thomas. A Dinguez, Jamenki, and Stogie taking either Day or Thomas for $642K. Sam Burns would have been the next best pick, finishing in 10th. We had a handful of players there. Gosh, it's slow going, Kyle, for me. I had Max Homa. You didn't do much better with Matt Fitzpatrick. I think we had a difference of $3,000.
Yeah, he threw it in reverse on Saturday, but it doesn't really matter yet at this point. There's been, very few people have hit winners. The spread is pretty low. I mean, with just the high winners. I mean, we're not even going to mention somebody that's in 5th. I will shout out a couple people that are doing much better than they did last year so far. Greg Bentley's in 15th place. I think he came in dead last year. So good job so far, Greg. We got a couple newbies. Burtis is in 8th. Good job, Burtis. And then there's some chump in 5th. I'm sure he's going to end up last. We're not even going to talk about it. But good job, Mulligan 46 and Stogie, Rock Shock MN 1, 2, 3 so far. Good work.
All right. Let's talk the Wimpo. The Wimpo, the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Kyle, you are the only person in the room tonight that, out of the two of us, that has been to the Wimpo. TPC Scottsdale, all 6261 yards of it. What do you think? What's it like to go to the Wimpo?
Oh, I have to always start with this every year. The disclaimer, the famous video that happens to make on Zaire. That is not me. It kind of looks like me.
It does so much.
That guy has a lot thicker legs and a lot thicker calves than I do. So that's clearly not me, because I could not maintain upright at that bend. You need some lower body strength, and I don't have that. If I was at that angle, I'm going down.
I've never seen you stumble like that, guy, but I think we all know the video, but it really looks like you.
It does, but he has much thicker calves. Check out his calves next time you see it.
Or I'll check out your calves next time. I'll have to.
All right. On that note, obviously grand old time, especially if you can swing it for a corporate function and get to be on the 3rd floor of 16 in one of the boxes. It was amazing. I can't speak a whole lot on the golf. I was there when Ricky and JT played in the old Kobe jerseys, just after Kobe passed. So that was cool. That was early enough in the day, I recall it. Yeah.
Well, this was, I don't know that it's not necessarily a a bucket list event for me. I think there's definitely probably maybe like a dozen more pro tournaments I'd probably want to go to.
Yeah.
But it does seem really cool. Like if I, like you said, had a work event, you're in the area, whatever it is, it would be cool to go to. I wouldn't make a point of it.
I completely agree with you. If I got to name, 5 golf-based things I would like to not play golf just to go watch, there's certainly 5 I would have higher than it. But if you have the opportunity, hell yeah. It's actually one thing. The one big takeaway, and I think I mentioned this in the past, and I think 90 Degree Rules played the course, right? But I can't picture the course very well without the stands, and it kind of seems like it would be very boring without the stands. Yes, there's water, rock outcroppings, but it's flat and it's whatnot. But the stands play into it, and then you just have that picture in your mind. I think it would be hard to go play it because it'd be like, okay, this is not what you picture.
You feel like you're in like a completely different place. I'm sure you walk up to 16, you're like, this isn't what it is.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what does it take to get it done at TPC Scottsdale? Like I assume you're getting some of the normal TPC elements, like keep it in play, plenty of water off the tee, big greens, forgiving. But there's got to be a skill set that gets it done.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a very interesting week, Mike, for a couple different reasons. I think there's some divergent takes on to your point on what the best course of action is there. I mean, some of the universal thoughts are it has very sticky course history. Obviously, we see that with the repeat winners. And generally, it's a team no putt are your guys here. You have Scotty won twice, Brooks won twice, Decky has won twice. So elite tee to green guys that are kind of very hit or miss with the putter. And that makes sense. They're fairly large greens and kind of tricky to get close to the sticks, but you have higher make percentages from some of the lengths than you usually see. But when I say there's some divergent opinions, some of the articles and pods we listen to, people are kind of all over the place on what it takes off the tee. Some people like the length, and I think they're kind of getting skewed by the length of drive here being one of the longest in tour, but it is also at elevation to an extent. So you have longer drives, and more people hit drivers more often. So and naturally you're gonna have longer drives, but I don't think you have to be a bomber. But on the flip side of the coin, you don't have to be super accurate too. You can spray it as long as you stay out of the water and don't end up directly behind a cactus, which is a little bit of plinko, but there's not really rough. It's fairly wide fairways. So there's, to your point on TPC courses, there's some trouble, but I think there's multiple ways to get it done. But if I could kind of boil all that down and you look at who's won here, I like taking the approach of just who's great tee to green and hope for some good putting weeks.
If I'm looking at the model, I see a lot of guys that pop tee to green. So you want to give us a rundown? Because I see that as a trend here.
Yeah, so I don't think it would surprise anyone leading the way. And this is, I think, one of the other interesting points this week is just lineup construction with the withdrawals and stuff. So and when we talk about plays, I want to get into that a little bit too. But right at the top, you got JT and you have Scotty, the two most expensive people left in the field. JT's at 10,000 this week. Scotty's at 11.6, 48% mention share for both. I'm actually surprised Scotty's not even higher than that. 63 on the MPI for JT, 82 on the MPI for Scotty. Keep a close eye on how that trends to tomorrow when we tweet this out. I'm guessing that we'll get a little bit of separation. I would guess Scotty would trend a little bit higher. He has the 2 W's here, but Justin Thomas has some great course history as well, and he seems to be the old Justin Thomas back. So I think there's going to be a very interesting strategy if people start or pick or choose one of those guys, and there is a $1,600 spread, or if people try to cram in both.
I was just going to say the same thing, that given that you don't have to make the choice of Vic or Xander in between them, I bet you see a lot of Scotty JT lineups because you're just going to go and there's going to be tons of value in the low 7Ks.
Yeah. Well, and that's my thought. That was actually my first thought, but then I've kind of maybe changed my
There's a
opinion
lot of
little bit.
ownership to take on. I mean, you're going to probably see those guys at 30 plus in most contests, and you're going to have to hope they finish it both in the top 5.
Yeah, but to steal a Tambo line is not who you play, it's how you play them, right? So if more people like maybe go into the build thinking that, but then you leave yourself 7,100 for the last 4. So just for example, you could have Scotty and JT, but then your rest of your lineup is going to be EVR, Michael Kim, Kurt Kitayama, and Adam Svensson, hypothetically.
Pretty solid.
Or maybe they're looking at that and they're trying to click around those bottom 6s and or 7s, and they're like, I don't know. And you look at it, you can go one of those guys, and then 2 or 3 8Ks or 3 or 2 7Ks, depending on who you pick up top. There's some very attractive guys down in the $8,000 range this week. You have Hideki at 8,400. He's getting 24% mention share so far, 50 on the MPI. He's won here twice. You have JT Poston at 8,900. You have Benny On, who's been playing great, 8,800. He is all at 24% mention share. Benny is at 92 on the MPI, so that likes him this week. So I think those 2 routes are going to be the most likely builds, but that leaves some big holes. So if you're really looking to pivot from a ownership standpoint, I think there's a lot of opportunity this week. So just to finish who is at the top of the model here, Mike, and then I'll let you get to who you like. We also have Adam Scott, $8,300, 30% mention share. Akshay, 7,800, 30% mention share. EVR, 7,100, 30% mention share. Bose Hostler, 8,000, 24% mention share. But you'll kind of notice a theme there. There's no one in the 9K range. And there's very few people outside of Akshay at the top of the 7s. So I think if that might be something you might want to consider if you want to get a little different this week, you could go the 9s and the high 7s, a lineup being like Homa, Spieth, Shane Lowry, Christian Bezuidenhout, Brian Harman, Thomas Dietrich. And I think you might have, about the same ownership there as you would with JT and Scotty combined.
I love that take, and I love the idea of looking for some gaps in popularity. I really quick, one guy, I don't, you didn't just mention him, but sitting there at 9K, you got Wyndham Clark, who just won last week. And just to quickly, I'm curious on what his course history looks like here at the Phoenix Open. And because you take a guy that just shot 60 a week ago, finishes 10th here last year, and he does have 2 cuts in his previous 6 attempts, but he did finish 10th here. He is gaining on approach. He had just an insane putting week, gaining 14 strokes on the greens last week, which again, you're looking for a guy who's pop putting. That's his best putting performance in his last 6 events. But gains off the tee and gains on approach, you could find some almost people kind of forgetting that he just had the performance that he just had. So I do like the idea of maybe trying to find some leverage in the 9Ks. If I got to flip a coin between Scotty and JT, are we still catching JT on his way up? Like, he did finish 6th last week. He finished 3rd at the Amex, 3rd at the Hero, 4th at the Nedbank, 5th at the Fortinet, 12th at the Wyndham. Like, he's playing pretty elite golf since he bottomed out where? The US Open, the British Open, the 3M. He missed the cut at the 3M as well. So he bombs out and misses the playoffs, but then literally has been on a tear since, gaining in literally all facets except for a couple of weeks he's been off with the putter. So if I got to flip a coin, I'm taking JT this week. I like Van Rooyen. Hasn't missed a cut since the Wyndham, so he made all, he obviously won the event at the WWT this fall, had a number of top 20 finishes, consistently gaining on approach, consistently gaining off the tee. We're looking for ball strikers at Phoenix. The same goes for Benny On. Again, hasn't missed a cut since the Rocket Mortgage. T31 last week at Pebble Beach, but he was second at the Sony and fourth at the Century. And the only other guy that, he popped at a place that he's had success, but Tom Hoge finishing sixth last week at Pebble Beach, making his previous two cuts before that at the Farmers and the American Express, but killing it with his irons right now and putting really well. If he can keep that up and continue to gain 4 or 5 strokes on the greens, where that's well above average for him, I like the shape that Tom Hoge is in right now. I could see him top 15 this week very easily.
One other guy kind of down in that Tom Hoge range from a mention share standpoint, wanted to mention, if we're talking team no putt, if Corey Connors sitting 8,100, which might be the area quite a few people land, so something to keep in mind there. But he's only getting 18% mention share so far. The MPI does like him, but we've talked about this year. We went over to Rick Rungood for our data tool standpoint, and I ran a model, Mike, just the last 100 rounds, all 100 weight on strokes gained tee to green, right? Who's the best tee to green players, and you're hoping for good putting weeks? Scotty's number 1. Don't think that would surprise anyone. Aaron Rai is number 2, and that he's not getting any love this week, but I think that's something maybe you should look in a little bit more. 7,100. Kevin Hughes at 7,300 is third. Justin Thomas 4th. Benny On is 5th, and Corey Connors is 6th on that list. And given where we've seen him pop up before, and the type of tracks we usually like him at, hey, this makes that can make some sense to me. He's only showing 9% so far. So yeah, I think that's if you're gonna live in the 8K range, that's a good click to get a little bit different than some of the others.
Corey Connors definitely fits that elite ball striker team no putt mold. So I could definitely see that happening this week. Do you want to run through tiers? You might try to criticize me for not having it up and running, but I think we're in good shape now.
I did check on this earlier. Well, I think the very interesting conversation, and this continues kind of what we were just talking about, is now we're down to 2 people in tier 1. Right. So if you're going to play tiers, I think you go with Scotty, just because it's Scotty's won here twice in a row, and you're getting a guy that's salary is 11,600 over a guy that's 10,000 in JT. So I would go Scotty from a tier perspective. And actually, in my standard DFS lineups, I'm trending more and more towards Scotty. I do really like JT this week. I wanted to bet JT this week, but his number got to a crazy place with the D's before I could get there. So I'm hoping as people work through this exercise and start building these lineups out, they want to find a little bit more money, so they end up going to JT over Scotty. But I think I would pick Scotty if I had to over the two.
When he wins this week, and it's the 3rd time in a row, and we said this last year when we didn't think like there was any chance he was going to win this event, and he did. And when he wins this week, we're going to say, of course he would win this event. Like he just cleaned up the last 2 years. If you go to Data Golf, they do it. The recent form is really well visualized on datagolf.com. And they have this color coding on their place finishes over the last 30 events. Everything that's top 30 or better is colored in some shade of green. There is one row that is not shaded for Scotty. One row. No miscuts. Finishes T31 at the St. Jude, the FedEx St. Jude. Other than that, it's T23 or better for his last 25 events.
That's wild.
The floor is just so high when you hit the ball like he does. And like you said, you get a week where it's team no putt. Why not Scotty?
And he had a good putting. And he had a great putting Friday last week, by the way.
It's in there. It's in there somewhere. I will not mind JT or Scotty taking down the title this week. Maybe I'll back JT a little bit more betting wise, but either guy is good with me from a fan standpoint. Should we do name game?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do name game. Last week we were at Pebble Beach, and so we were kind of looking into where the beaches across the world that some of our favorite PGA Tour players frequented, maybe on vacation, maybe that's where they were from. Kyle, I won for the second week in a row.
Jeez, man.
It was ugly. I had a 17-point margin over, or 16-point margin over you. So here we go. Standings now, I have 3 wins on the year. Jordan with 0, you with 1, and our listeners with 1.
And the most important piece of that, Mike, is Jordan has what?
Jordan has 0. Jordan has
0.
This is important. He's digging himself a really deep hole, and now he's not even here to choose his team that he would choose first. So now we are going to get to choose for him, because the draft order will be Jordan, listeners, you, and then me.
Well, but I think I'm scared. I think we're better off with Jordan picking. That's my concern.
That is a good point. Well, let's see how this plays out. So I was thinking about, how, who in the field this week is going to sort of channel their inner namesake. This is the name game. They're going to channel their inner namesake, and that's going to lead them to victory. So what we got this week is we got 4 teams of 3. And each player has been chosen based on a past champion of some version of the WIMPO. Might have been the Waste Management Phoenix Open, might have been the Waste Management Open, might have been the Phoenix Open, and might have been the Arizona Open.
This is true sicko. This is true sicko, Mike. Wow.
It's not that hard to do, but it's pretty funny, the results that come up. Now, we're going to be dealing mainly with scrubs here. The highest salary that you'll find on your squad is $7,800. So we're dealing mainly with scrubs. And the insight that I drew from that was that players that have won this event recently, players that have won this event recently, who are what we're choosing. I wasn't going to put Scotty on here. I wasn't going to put, whoever. The older players don't have names like the current players. So there's a bit of there's some stretches here, I'll say. Here we go. Team 1 will be Kevin Yu, who's channeling Kevin Stadler, the 2014 champion. Keith Mitchell. I think this must have been his uncle, Jeff Mitchell, who won in 1980.
Clearly.
And then Harris English, going all the way back to 1933, when Harry Cooper won the Arizona Open.
Related to DB Cooper.
Probably. You might remember Chris DeMarco winning in 2002. Christian Bezuidenhout is going to be thinking about Chris DeMarco this week. Tom Hoagie and Tom Putzer, who was the 1984 champion, and Sam Stevens and Steve Jones, who won in 1997, shortly after he won the U.S. Open the previous summer. Mark Hubbard. He must be a follower of Mark Wilson on Twitter. Mark Wilson won in 2011. Our guy, Thomas Dietrich, thinking about Tommy Armour III and some of his antics in his frustrations on the putting green, 1990. And then JJ Spawn, you may know him as John Jr. Jonathan Kay won this tournament in 2004. Team 4. Thank God Bobby McIntyre was added to the field today, because he matches up with Bobby Locke, the 1948 champion. Ben Griffin will certainly draw some inspiration from Ben Crenshaw, who 1979 Phoenix Open champion. He must have been pretty young. I meant to look up exactly how old Ben Crenshaw was when he won this, because he won the Masters in the mid-90s. So he must have been pretty young here when he won it at Scottsdale. And then literally I was totally running out of names at this point. Brian Harmon, represented by the 2010 champion Hunter Mahan, because Brian likes shooting animals.
So Ben Crenshaw was 27 in 1979. Most of the 90s and 2000s names here, I'm not near as the sicko as you, Mike. I know, but I do not know Mark Wilson from 2011.
I don't know Mark Wilson that well.
And it's only 13 years ago. That's a surprising one. I like it. I like the effort. I like where we're at. The new concept here. I think there's a clear choice for Jordan. I think it's Team 4. He loves his Brian Harmon / Hunter Mahan. And you look back at his choices in the past, because he's chosen early a lot because he's been really sucky this year. He usually goes for the highest salary teams. That's just where he likes to go. So that's the second highest salary. So I think it's Team 4. Bobby Mack,
Okay.
Ben Griffin, and Brian Harmon.
Okay. All right. I buy that.
And if he wins, we're never choosing for him again. If he gets to go first, he just gets the leftovers.
I was thinking listeners would get Team 1, mainly because they don't deserve my guy, Tom Hoagie, and they don't deserve our guy, Thomas Dietrich.
Sure. I was between Team 1 and 3, so you made the selection for me there. I'll take Hubbard. Yeah, maybe he chugs a beer on the green this year. He seems like he could take the Harry Higgs role.
Homo subs. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then Dietrich, yeah, our boy, who's just on the up. Hey, get in front. If you can buy shares of Thomas Dietrich, do it right now. And then JJ's. Let's go.
Do you think, I mean, just a quick aside on Thomas Dietrich, are we thinking that he has shot his shot and this is as good as it gets? Or you want a guy that's playing well and eventually he's going to break through this year? I mean, that's obviously
he's going to break through. And just a reminder for those that don't know what we're talking about, we own him in the Calcutta. We've had some good teases the last couple weeks here, but just love to see it. My only concern with Dietrich is his ability to close, because he's
exactly what I was going to say.
Yeah, he's shown the meltdown ability in the past, but like we just needed an event like last week where he can be in the lead at the end of round 3 and be like, oh, it's done. Hey.
Dude, did he have a 3-shot lead at some point this past week early on? I feel like he
yeah, in round 2, but he had everyone else had holes in hand, right? So he came out pretty hot round 2. I don't know if it was exactly 3, but he was through like 9 and the leaders were still on 2, Or leaders going another round.
All right. Well, I got 2 questions for you as we close out the show tonight. First question is, are you going to bet on the Waste Management? And the second question is, are you going to bet on the Super Bowl?
Ooh, good question. Waste Management, so far, we got to get another winner here. We're finally back on the train. So far, it's a pretty light card, so I'm trying to evaluate from here. But I have JTP at 35. Boy, just playing great. And if you lean into some of the narrative that you don't need to be a bomber and just need to throw some darts with the irons and get close, and he can be your guy. We have Akshay at 65-1, just like the number. And I feel a guy that he could lean into the vibe here a little bit, can spray it a little bit further, but then also have those mid irons in the bag. And then Kevin Yu, the captain of Team No Putt in the past, he's 110 right now, but he's actually been putting okay, and he's been popping. He's been a lot in the top of the leaderboard, so 110 is a great number. I'm looking for one more. I just can't get to JT at 10. That's not how I like to play it. So I can't get there.
I saw some chatter somewhere on the socials around Kevin Yu being the community play this week, and then the response being, why the hell is anybody betting Kevin Yu at the Phoenix Open to win? But why not? 110, sure.
Hey, in the community plays, and especially not as much last year, I feel like, but my hot year 2022, a lot of those community plays hit, and the community play hit last week. So I like those community plays. I usually save one spot on my card for who the guy everyone's playing, because you don't want to have that FOMO, right?
I hear you. I'm tired of the triple digit winners. I want to see the guys that we like win. Kevin Yu's been good the last couple of years. Like he's a bomber. I hope that he sticks around a little bit, but I don't know. Give me Scotty or JT this week. This is
or JTP. Let's go 35. Let's go. And to answer your Super Bowl question, I did throw one in. I don't really have a lean at all, but for threw one in before I left Boston last week. I took the Chiefs on the money line for plus 105. I kind of would prefer the Niners to win, so that's a rooting hedge, I guess, if anything.
I have not gotten into DraftKings pick six yet. I'm sure I have to build some other lineups. I don't know. I guess I have always been a fan of getting to observe firsthand greatness unfolding. I was not a Tom Brady nor Patriots fan, but if I had to choose a winner in the Super Bowl, I would have sided with Tom Brady on whatever team he was playing, only because, like, when else do you get to be alive? When else do you get to be alive but for someone winning 7 Super Bowls? Come on, you're gonna tell.
I was sure the other way. Yeah.
That it's the same. I mean, you just think with Tiger Woods is winning every single event, and I know there are people like my dad was in this camp, just like couldn't get himself to cheer for him. And it's like, but you're literally getting to see greatness unfold before your eyes. And so for me, I don't have a real stake in the game, but you're going to potentially witness Patrick Mahomes win his 3rd Super Bowl in 5 years, being in the league for however long he's been in the league for 7-8 years. I don't know. You just don't get a lot of chances to witness the Caitlin Clarks of the world. And so you want to milk it for all that you can.
That's a good way to pull me back in, Mike. It's funny you bring up some of those examples though, because I would say I'm on the other side of the Tiger. I was always pro Tiger, and still am. For some reason, football though, like I was always anti-Cowboys growing up, anti-49ers, and then anti-Patriots. The difference for the 49ers this year for me is, even though I'm an Iowa Hawkeye fan, Brock Purdy, played at Iowa State. And then George Kittle from Iowa, so that's kind of the breaker for me.
Kelsey's a good tight end. He didn't go to Iowa.
See, isn't that very shocking? Very, very shocking. My favorite part of the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is great event, but I make foods for each of the teams, so I got that going for me. And so that's the one benefit of Kansas City always being in it is I just get to, get my smoker going and make barbecue every time for the Super Bowl. I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing from San Francisco perspective. But
did we talk about this last year? You were doing your version of Skyline Chili or something like that, or what's?
Yeah, that was Cincinnati. Yeah, I did Skyline Chili. We've talked about it before. Yeah, it's like 10 years running for me now. I need some new teams. I need some new teams in the Super Bowl.
You just do Kansas City ribs St. Louis ribs every year. I think we might be getting the families together on Saturday, so maybe there's a bit of a preview that we could do.
Oh yeah, there you go. I like it. I have before you wind us down, a couple other betting thoughts though, Mike.
Lay it on.
So now, as we've discussed at length, it had the ability to bet freely last week. So I did have a loser though. Me and Jordan jointly took the Fitzpatrick double in the Bahrain Championship in the AT&T Pebble Beach Pro-Am. That one didn't hit, but that would have been a fun.
What was the line on that one?
93,500.
Okay.
That would have been a legendary take. So then I had to try to find, as we talked about them towards the end of the pod, I had to try to find some other Bahrain Championship bets. I took Pablo Larrazabal.
Come on. Oh.
No? Larrazabal?
Larrazabal. With a TH. The Z is a TH. Larrazabal.
Oh. Yeah. That makes more sense now. I've actually heard that name. I was like, who is this guy? He's only
Jose Marie Olazabal.
Yeah,
famous Spanish golfer. Okay,
yeah. Yeah. No, it makes sense now. But anyway, he missed the cut as well. So, but I did take Chris Kirk to win the Masters.
Thank you. You know that I forgot to book that one in New York a couple weeks ago.
Yes, I did take Chris Kirk to win the Masters and Willie Z to win the U.S. Open because why not?
We're going to be there. Be there. We got to get. There's going to have to be plenty of money on the line that week somehow. So let me know when next time you're in a betting state, or we're just driving to Iowa before we head to North Carolina.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I like it.
All right. Well, that's a wrap on our Waste Management Phoenix Open preview. You can follow us on Twitter all week long at RTG Podcast DFS. Our episodes are out every Wednesday morning on our YouTube channel, Reading the Green, and on any major podcast platform. We'll be back in a week with the results of the Waste Management and look ahead to the Genesis Invitational at Riviera. See ya.